synopsis of what's going on here. 2013 F150. This is the STX series with the V8, 5.0 V8. I guess it's a Coyote is a code name for it. I am currently replacing a water pump. This vehicle is just outside of its extended warranty period, which was I think 75,000 miles. So in order to replace this water pump, of course you need to remove the regular usual hoses here, and your air intake box, your intake for your throttle body, for your air intake there, and then you'll need to remove the pulley, and I think those were 10mm bolts on the pulley there. And the reason we're replacing this is because at about 83,000 miles, this wonderful construction gave way, blowing out the bearing, shaft bearing in there, and spewing all of the antifreeze out into the street, which was great and fun. To wait 2 days for the aftermarket part to come. One thing that I did notice, and I'll try to go out here in the aftermarket part, that the Ford OEM part has is that little, what appears to be maybe a neoprene or rubber ring of some sort or another for sealing. Three 10mm bolts, one here, one down below, and one here. You will need to, again, like I said, remove this pulley. The tensioner, if you haven't figured it out, is down here. The size socket for that is a 15mm socket. I have my 15mm on a 3/4 inch breaker bar, and then you pull it back towards the passenger side to release the tension on that tensioner. If you don't like having the hood latch jab into your chest while you're working inside this engine compartment, a 10mm socket will remove those two bolts. If you're purchasing the part for this vehicle, they will tell you that you'll need a O-ring. That is not the case. The OEM O-ring on this vehicle was decent anyways, but the replacement or aftermarket water pump did come with an O-ring. When I put these bolts back in, I put a little grease around or lubricant around the O-ring that came with the water pump, and then evenly distributed the tension to the bolts. And I'm going to torque those down now. I'll have to look at my manual and see what the torque specifications are. You'll have to remove your throttle body intake setup, and there's some funky clips, couple funky clips. They're like for the hoses, instead of having clamps, they use these little bit awkward clips to clip them together. But really, there isn't a whole lot to removing this or replacing it. You know, you can see that's the amount of carnage on these bolts left. And these are out of the throttle body, and these were holding the thermostat in, and I honestly don't remember where that one came from yet, but we'll figure it out. after you have that water pump firmly snugged in there, I didn't find a torque specification, but basically made sure they were tight. You don't want to over tighten them because you'll strip them out of the aluminum. I have, hopefully have 4 bolts that will go into the pulley. When you take this apart, I would recommend that you loosen your pulley first before removing the belt. That way you don't loosen the belt first and find out that you don't have enough grip or strength to go ahead and hold that in place. Lesson learned. So I'm just going to gently tighten these up. I'm tightening the last one in this pulley. Again, there are 4 of them. And then what I'll do is I will put the belt onto it and tighten this up. Still not sure why the OEM factory one failed. I'm actually going to say, something else that I noticed on this, newer Ford vehicle. Like the inside of my Explorer has a sticker for the V8 and the V6, even though I had the V8 in mine. That shows you the belt layout, and not anywhere inside here. Now I'm sure inside the manual, the owner's manual, they have it, but not anywhere in here do they have a belt layout, which I think is kind of fucking lame on Ford's part. So just to see how this goes and how this works, this one-handed operation, you get your tensioner there, and obviously the groove sides go on the grooves and the flat sides go around the back side of the pulley. So underneath, and then it goes back around and then back up and back down around the alternator. Assembly part of this, what I have found is it is easier to connect your hoses with the little funky clips that they, so wonderfully engineered to your thermostat and stuff. I mean, it's easier to move everything around up front, and basically you have to tear all that apart in order to go ahead and replace the thermostat, which is again not so bad, but with 100 years of innovation or whatever, you'd think that they would have come up with something better. But then again, engineers only know how to design. They don't go into the office and go, oh well, I worked on that before, and that's why it was awkward for me to work on, so we're gonna make it easier for someone to work on. Obviously, they don't want us working on our vehicles anymore because that takes away from good service jobs at the dealership. So and that single odd bolt that I couldn't identify earlier was for holding this mechanism down in there, and I guess that neoprene gasket that was inside the OEM water pump really isn't a big deal, but I'm going to clean this one because it looks like crap, and I have a feeling that wherever my girlfriend took the vehicle to get serviced at last, they may have used an inappropriate antifreeze inside this beast of a bitch. Alright, on to the next part. So the single lone bolt that I was not so sure what it was, that goes in here. That is a 9mm, 8mm socket. Alright, on to the final push of this, and do keep in mind that these are 2 different sizes now. This particular one with a funky clip on the bottom, and this particular one with a funky clip also on the bottom. I used a flathead screwdriver to gently manipulate that back into this little groove here, and then did the same thing with the other side, which is you can actually do with your finger. It's if you got good enough calcium in your body, I suppose. I don't really have thick fingernails. Fortunately, God did not bless me with those. The same thing with this side. You can get a flathead in there or your fingertip and manipulate that back. And then they give us a good old regular spring-loaded clamp or tension-loaded clamp, whatever name you have for it. We use a pair of channel locks to finagle that back on the biscuit there, and then you're almost done. Then all you have left to do is the throttle body for the intake there, and reassemble your air box, and make sure you use only what the manufacturer tells you to use in here. I don't know. There's a lot of different forms out there that are stating that you can use the Dextron or whatever it is, as long as it's orange. I'm going to be using the Dextron or whatever it is, orange, in this because it is approved by the specifications that Ford calls for. Apparently you cannot mix the green and the orange here, and you should not put pink in here. So the orange stuff is what we're going to be putting in here. So the rest is pretty self-explanatory. I didn't look this up because at the heat of the moment it was like 7 o'clock already at night and it was dark out, and I have a garage, but it's not a man garage, so I have to still work outside. These are 8mm bolts. There are 4 of them. Again, when tightening, be careful because those are just pushed into some plastic. That's basically what it is. I'm going to tighten these up. I cleaned the back side of the throttle body a little bit because it was pretty gummed up. Then we'll attach our air intake box and get the antifreeze out and start filling her up.